I turned my neighbor's own words into a $25,000 mistake. My neighbor's illegal pool construction shattered my house walls. Old houses naturally fall apart, he told me, so I made everything in his life naturally fall apart. It was 6 a.m. when the jackhammering started. My new neighbor decided to put in a pool with no warning, just bang, bang, bang before sunrise. I thought, fine, people renovate. But then I saw the crack creeping down my living room wall. Each day of construction, it grew wider. After 2 weeks of this, I knocked on his door with photos on my phone. He barely glanced at them. I'll look into it, buddy, he said, already closing the door. But it went on for another 4 days, and by then, the crack had reached the ceiling. The contractor I hired took one look and knew. That's vibration damage from heavy equipment, he said, tracing the crack. Natural settling goes straight down. This follows your wall studs at an angle. That only happens from external force. Your neighbor's construction did this. $8,000 to fix it. He wrote it on company letterhead and signed it. I marched over with the assessment. Found my neighbor by his new pool with friends, all drinking. He saw me coming and rolled his eyes. I showed him the $8,000 estimate. He laughed in my face. Your house is old as dirt. Old houses fall apart. That's what they do. I shoved the contractor's assessment at him. He didn't even look at it. Your contractor saw you coming a mile away. He turned to his friends. This guy thinks I should pay because his ancient house can't handle a little noise. They all laughed. He stepped closer, ear breath in my face, and said slowly like I was stupid, not my problem. Your house is naturally falling apart all on its own, buddy. Naturally falling apart. Those words burned in my brain while I paid for the repairs myself. $8,000 out of my savings. Not his problem. We'll see about that. I installed a sump pump in my basement that weekend and aimed the discharge pipe towards his house along my property line, right where the yard grade sloped towards his. Then I waited. 2 weeks later, I saw him setting up for a pool party and grinned. My heart raced while I flipped the switch on the pump and watched a gush of dirty water flow from my basement onto his property. A muddy river crept between his back door and pool. Then it started entering the deep end of the pool, making all the kids scream and rush out. I watched his guests trip and fall into the mud trying to enter his house. Call me petty, but I loved every second of it. My neighbor stormed over, mud streaking his clothes and drying on his hair. What the heck is this? He yelled. I showed him my moisture meter, explained about the pump. You know how the water flows downhill naturally? Well, since my house is naturally old, I can't exactly control when my basement needs pumping naturally, I said, practically savoring every word. His face grew red, but I wasn't done messing with him. I drove to the shelter that weekend and found the biggest, scariest looking dog they had. A 100-pound Rottweiler named Chomper, who looked like he ate children for breakfast, but was actually scared of butterflies. The neighbor didn't need to know that. First time he used his pool equipment, Chomper went absolutely insane, barking like the hounds of hell. I watched the neighbor literally jump back from his fence. Sorry about that, I yelled over the fence. He naturally reacts to loud noises. Rescue dog, you know, natural behavior. Then I started mowing my lawn whenever he had people over, always when the wind was blowing toward his yard. Grass clippings covered his pool like green snow naturally. Even my sprinkler system naturally developed a fascinating malfunction where it shot water 15 feet past its normal range, right onto his patio during every single dinner party. He tried to contact the city about each issue, but when they inspected everything, they agreed that it was either perfectly legal or perfectly natural. But my neighbor was a man of resilience. On the 4th of July weekend, he planned a massive pool party, one where he even invited me, though we both knew I wasn't coming. The night before the party, I heard him outside at 2 a.m. digging a trench like a madman, trying to redirect my drainage. He hacked at the ground like he was burying a body until I heard it clang, hiss. Water exploded into the air like a geyser. The big idiot had hit the main water line. He stood there for a second, frozen, then ran inside, leaving the water gushing. By sunrise, his basement was flooded. The ground under his pool was saturated mud, and the pool itself partially collapsed. A city inspector arrived at the same time his guests did. The inspector looked at his security footage showing him alone with a shovel at 2 in the morning. Sir, you broke a water main during an illegal excavation, the inspector said. That's going to be a serious fine. He had to pay for the water main repair, $20,000 for a new pool, $5,000 in city fines. His insurance wouldn't cover it because he caused the damage himself. I stopped running the pump unless it actually rained. Fixed the sprinkler too, but I kept Chomper, too cute to let go. In the end, I never touched his property, never broke a single law. He destroyed his own pool naturally.